Hey, more friends, want to tell you a story from yesterday, and really the context of the story is how does God work? At least in our world, how does He work in different situations? We come to these events and we directly evangelize to fans and local citizens, but then there's always this ancillary work that God does around us, which certainly I know goes on all the time, and at least I'm conscious that it's happening. I can't always see it. So, but this is one of those stories. So yesterday we were going down the Eiffel Tower, and so I said, three or four of us, and I said, let's go. I want to stop at Trocadero metro station first. Trocadero, if you look on the map, is a tourist spot, and it's across the river from Eiffel Tower. And I thought it'd be busy, so we get off the metro stop, and it wasn't busy. So we walked down the hill a little bit, about 10 minutes, and come to a circular intersection. In the center of the intersection is a statue of George Washington on a horse, and the station's called IENA, I guess. That's, IENA. And so we said, hey, let's set up shop here a little bit. One thing you try to do when you're in big cities, not spend all day walking around or riding around. So I said, we've been about 20 minutes off the train. Let's stop and do something. So it was a pretty good spot. A lot of foot traffic, fans, local folks, police coming and going. So we set up in the corner, and so Kim was preaching first, and Jonathan passing out tracts, and I was filming, and then Jonathan got up, and then Gary showed up. Gary's from the UK. First time he's been with us, a wonderful guy, and so he was there. So he got up there. I started preaching. I was filming it, and after about 10 minutes, in fact, at the end, as he was going through his sermon, this American family, was passing by, and he started talking to the father. And if you look at the video, you'll see it. And as he's talking to him, he'd been talking a while, trying to explain justification by faith. These two gentlemen undercover, or they were in plain clothes, walk up to him, and one pulls up his shirt, and I said, this is unusual. It wasn't like it was, weird or anything. I thought maybe this is something official. Sure enough, Gary gets down. Turns out these are two undercover police. They've come up to see what's going on with us. So within about a minute or so, I look around, and we're surrounded by probably 7 or 8 police. So what we found out is there's a lot of law enforcement dressed in official uniform with guns, and apparently there's a lot of undercover people too. So these first 2 guys were undercover, and then there was a third plainclothes gentleman, and he came in. He was undercover too. So they got all our IDs. They checked us out. And so now here's what began to happen. They began to get our IDs, and then they said, hey, what are y'all doing? And then they said, what are you giving out? So we gave them some of our literature, which is in French. These guys, the leadership at least spoke French, and one of them spoke English too. But anyway, spoke French. So the message was going out. See, here's the point. And then as they got what they needed from us, and the situation, at least from their point, like they were calming down. I think we were all calm. We've interacted with the police 7 or 8 times since we've been here. So that was not unusual for us on this trip. They began to calm down and relax. Once that happened, God was working. See, this is the point. He's working here. So a couple of particular personal interactions happened. One, the officer besides me, a young man from another nation, he spoke a little English. He asked me where I was from. I told him Tennessee and asked if he'd been to the States. He said, yeah, New York. So we chatted about New York. And then I said, hey, man, we're praying for you every day. And when I said it, it really seemed to impact him. Now, people in my shoes, you do ministry stuff. You're always looking, and you can overreach here for people's responses. But generally speaking, this guy was somehow, and for me, unexpectedly touched by that idea. And so then we all began to get back together. And I told them, the main guy, who became a really friendly guy, they were all friendly people. They weren't mean at all. And I told him, I said, hey, man, I want you to know we're praying for you too. And him and the first guy, undercover cop that came up and talked to Gary. And then we gave them the guys made sure everybody had literature, so the gospel went out. We, in a sense, got to minister to them. They got to see that we were, we weren't there to do anybody any harm. We were all easygoing about it. And then Gary got to pray with a couple of them. He said, "Hey, can I pray for you?" I think he said he prayed. He asked that to 3 of them, and they said yes. So, man, it was an amazing way that God worked to kind of bring the gospel out of a situation, communicate with these officers what was going on, and we got to communicate the message directly and since minister to them as well. A couple more points. One, the main leader who was undercover, he pointed up to a camera. You know, we've seen these cameras on poles and stuff, and said they saw you and they sent us over. So I'm going to assume, and this continually relates to the story, that these police, whoever the security is in charge of this whole Olympics affair, they've seen us out. We've been all over the city. And so, and they've, like I said, they've interacted with us several times. Hopefully what is happening here is what we represent to them is they're starting to see, hey, these guys are good guys and this is what they're doing. They don't mean anybody any harm, and they're preaching Jesus, which is not an unknown thing in France. And the message is getting out. And that's one way God works in these environments, as we're just out and about for many days in a row, in addition to what we do directly all day long. And that's kind of why we come, to permeate an area with the gospel, to saturate an area with the gospel, both verbally with literature and in these sort of informal, spontaneous interactions with authorities and other people. So to me, hope it's a clear story. It's a great story. And I want to share that with you, with the Lord working through us even in that particular moment. Have a great day.